The man froze the moment his eyes landed on the painting. His mop slipped from his hand and hit the polished marble floor with a hollow thud that echoed across the long hallway. The woman in the ivory blouse turned to him, startled, her brows arching in confusion. The janitor's lips trembled as he lifted a shaking hand toward the portrait of a little girl, her eyes ocean blue, her expression hauntingly serene, her golden hair perfectly curled. He could barely find his voice when he whispered, "Ma'am, the girl in that painting. She lived with me in the orphanage. If you believe in kindness, compassion, and second chances, please take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who believes in humanity, and subscribe to the channel for more stories that remind us the world still has miracles hidden in plain sight." The woman blinked, not understanding what he meant. But to the janitor, whose name tag read Samuel, there was no mistaking that face. He remembered those eyes as clearly as he remembered his own scars. Years ago, when Samuel worked as a caretaker at St. Mary's Orphanage, a girl just like that, quiet, shy, and always clutching a small wooden doll, had lived there. Her name was Lila. She never smiled much, but when she did, it lit up the dull, broken world around her. She'd been found abandoned near a church gate one winter night, wrapped in an old blanket, barely breathing. Samuel had carried her inside, fed her, and treated her as if she were his own child. For years she lived under that roof, drawing little pictures on scraps of paper, singing to herself in corners, and waiting for parents who never came. Samuel had seen countless children come and go, adopted by families, some cruel, some kind. But Lila, no one ever chose her. She was delicate, pale, and often sick. Yet she was also the most loving soul in that orphanage. She would sneak bread from her own plate to feed stray cats, and she always asked Samuel, "Do you think my mom will find me one?" Day? He never had the heart to tell her the truth. Then, one stormy night, everything changed. A fire broke out in the east wing of the orphanage. Samuel had rushed through the smoke, saving as many children as he could. But when he went back for Lila's room, she was gone. Her bed was empty, the window open. No one knew what happened. The police searched for weeks, but she was never found. The orphanage closed down soon after, and Samuel's life fell apart. He blamed himself for losing her. He took jobs wherever he could, cleaning schools, offices, and now, this mansion. He thought the world had forgotten her. But now, standing in front of that painting, his heart pounded in disbelief. The same soft curls, the same blue eyes that looked too old for a child's face. It was her, or someone who looked exactly like her. He turned toward the woman again, unable to control his trembling. She looked wealthy, elegant, probably the owner of the mansion. "Where did you get this painting?" he asked, his voice cracking. The woman hesitated, looking at the portrait herself. "It's my daughter," she said softly, "or at least the child we lost." Samuel felt his knees weaken. "Lost?" he echoed. She sighed deeply and sat down on a nearby chair, her fingers trembling. "Her name was Lila," she whispered. "She was adopted about 15 years ago from an orphanage outside the city. My husband and I couldn't have children, and she was the sweetest girl. But one day she just vanished from our backyard. No ransom note, no witnesses. We searched for years, hired detectives, even offered rewards. We never found her. This painting was made from her last school photograph. It's all we have left." The air between them turned heavy. Samuel's vision blurred as tears filled his eyes. "Mom, she is the same Lila. She lived with me before she was adopted. I was there when she was found. I held her when she cried for her mother." His voice broke as memories rushed through him, the tiny shoes by her bed, her laughter echoing down cold halls, her drawings pinned on the orphanage walls. "She called me Uncle Sam," he said, his voice trembling like the strings of a forgotten song. The woman pressed her hand to her mouth. Her eyes glistened as she looked at him, as if hearing a ghost's voice. For years she had lived with guilt and emptiness, believing that perhaps she'd done something wrong, that she hadn't loved Lila enough. And now a janitor, a stranger, stood before her, bringing with him a flood of memories and truths she'd buried deep. They sat in silence for a long while. The golden frame of the portrait glowed softly under the lamp's light, and it almost felt as if Lila herself was watching them, trying to bridge the world between loss and remembrance. Samuel finally spoke again, quietly but firmly. "I believe she wanted us to find each other. Maybe this is her way of coming home." The woman nodded, tears streaming down her cheeks. "You know," she said, her voice fragile, "I used to sit in front of that painting every night and talk to her. I told her I hoped she wasn't cold or scared wherever she was. I told her I'd trade everything, just to see her one last time." Samuel swallowed hard. "I used to light a candle for her every year at the old orphanage site," he murmured. "Even when everyone else forgot, I couldn't. She was my little girl too, in a way." The woman stood and went closer to him, her eyes softening with gratitude and sorrow. "You were her guardian angel," she said. "I wish I had known you back then." He shook his head. "We both did what we could. Maybe that's what she wanted, to remind us that love never disappears. It just changes form." A gentle silence filled the room as they both turned to look at Lila's portrait again. The painted eyes seemed almost alive, glassy, gentle, forgiving. For a brief, impossible moment, Samuel thought he saw a faint smile curve on her lips, as if she was finally at peace seeing the two people who had loved her. Most standing together. From that day forward, Samuel didn't just work in that mansion, he became part of it. Every morning he cleaned the hallways, dusted the picture frames, and placed fresh flowers beneath Lila's portrait. The woman, Mrs. Davenport, often joined him for coffee afterward, and together they shared stories about Lila. The way she hummed lullabies, her favorite strawberry jam, the way she used to dance barefoot in the rain. They laughed, cried, and healed together. It was as if Lila had returned, not in flesh, but in the connection she rekindled between two lonely souls. Months passed, and something extraordinary began to happen. Letters started arriving, handwritten with no return address. Each one carried drawings that looked just like the ones Lila used to make: flowers, cats, sunbeams, and sometimes a little girl holding hands with two adults. The woman showed them to Samuel, trembling with disbelief. "Could someone be sending these?" she whispered. "Or is it a sign?" Samuel smiled faintly. "Maybe it's her way of saying she's happy now. Maybe she's somewhere watching over us." And that became their quiet truth. Whether it was faith, fate, or something beyond human understanding, they both began to live again. Samuel started volunteering at children's homes once more, this time with Mrs. Davenport's help. Together they built a small foundation in Lila's name, a safe place for abandoned children. They called it the Blue Eyes Home, after the girl who had brought light into their darkness. Years later, on the anniversary of the day they met in front of that portrait, Mrs. Davenport walked into the mansion's hall to find a single white feather resting on the frame. She smiled softly, whispering, "Welcome home, my sweet girl." If this story touched your heart, please don't forget to like this video, share it with someone who still believes in miracles, and subscribe for more stories that remind us of the power of love and memory. Before you go, comment below. Do you believe that some souls return to help heal the ones they left behind? And, as the lights in the hallway dimmed that evening, the janitor and the woman sat beneath the gentle gaze of a painted child, feeling, for the first time in years, that they were no longer alone. Love, after all, doesn't end. It just finds a new home.